afterthought, but I was gonna send you, a copy of some of the stuff that was in the packet for the board in July. Did you get that? Did you go through? Most importantly, the attachment that had the number, the 400.
Yeah, I keep all of them. You have to find where I put them, but most of the time, because sometimes I'll just go through and when
Sure, there's a lot of stuff. But it has all 400 of the delinquent. It doesn't have what the parcel numbers are, but it gives you the number by year delinquent, starting at 3, 5, 10, 15.
Yeah. If it's not too much trouble, send it my way just in case.
Yeah.
I'll check tonight. I can choose it about 4 in the morning.
I'll just send it. As a matter of fact, I scanned it, then it left, and I just didn't remember to send it to you.
Yeah, I know that one. That's a big one. I know I have all the, I record them all too, so I have all the transcription from it. I just need to go through this.
Yeah, I tried.
I need to look over, I didn't talk to the guy with me yesterday, but I know he spoke that certainly helps.
Yes, I sent you something about his property that I had documented before he and I got together, so.
Oh, nice, okay. Yeah, I have usually a 40-minute drive from Richmond to here, so.
You live in Richmond?
I do, yeah. I live in, sort of Mechanicsville area, so it's not as bad. It's like right on the coast of Mechanicsville on the north side, so. But yeah.
Whereabouts?
You know where Cox's Park is? It's,
Yeah, I knew it from an aerial. Just,
right?
I know about where it is.
Yeah, you take,
So you just go straight on into the
I
city.
just scroll on through my phone, I don't see half the messages, and sometimes they don't even pop up, I think my thing was full, and I'm like,
Well, no, service full.
okay.
No, I'll call you and tell you that I did some
and right off the bed.
and you can get rid of it. But it's such
Bus stop is, but yeah.
Oh, it is?
So yeah.
So it's a big count, that's good. And I think what you guys are doing is the right approach.
Okay.
It's not too bad.
Is to take away any opportunity for there to be confusion.
We used to live in the van.
So anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
But about this,
So I don't know, about one of those, but it's still maybe works out, we can get rid of it in a couple of years. I'll change it.
Yeah, I'm not ready to
well now, if you
but I
imagine,
couldn't,
are
the
you
fans got so expensive now. North side.
I've been paying, I didn't want to do that before, I just didn't want to see it from every stove, I can do that.
you get a final second?
I'm gonna have to have it. I can't make money now. I mean, I'm the treasurer of 3 organizations now. I'm the treasurer of all the employee benefit associations in VDOT. Now, 20 years. Chamber of Commerce, a couple clubs. Like Bobby said, it's all a new system, so I'm ready to learn. I'm talking to Travis, not Travis, Tripp. He's gonna teach me ahead of time so I can get up on the edges. Right, off.
So then we put
Yeah. So, if I win, as I said, but I can't do both.
right.
Churchill's an interesting.
That would mean we could pick somebody in the income just like Harry and hold over until, and we just go to the next general. Like, we don't have to have
Oh, yeah,
a
they're
Much less.
March to November, it's too close. November.
I have a friend that had 2 kids who went to ECU. I bought her a
So,
little house.
yeah, what I would do is I would
25th, maybe
do
26th.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so, yes,
Yeah,
I would.
renovated it somewhat, left it again. Looked like there was a lot of activity in that area.
Oh, yeah.
Better than nothing, then at least I got some.
Yeah, they're really cutting in the work over there.
And that gives plenty of time to find somebody else.
They don't build.
But no, I promise my wife.
One of the only ones.
I'll confirm it now.
Right, just to make sure I didn't.
Well, I think
Just the other day, and somebody said, "Talk to me," I hadn't really hadn't thought of that, and that's right.
take all of the residents downtown.
It hadn't gotten close yet,
So again, my idea is, you know, I would be there for
Yeah.
and then I'll be working.
I'm hoping that, maybe help out a little bit, but I doubt it.
Good luck.
These are all tanks, I guess everything's marked off, I guess. I'm doing it all the time.
History buff, police need to see all
Sit
the
on the desk.
renovation, restoration, of some of the old buildings that are missing.
Yeah, it is
Like in
interesting. I
school,
know they
they
actually
moved it
keep
up. It's like in
up with
school,
their,
you get late, you gotta go down.
some things in place.
There's some real incentives.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah, I worked at,
That's all right.
Good.
Gotta watch these exercises.
Yeah, right? I used to work at Hot Valley and, throughout college and, they had bought a new location in town. And they said that one of the biggest problems they had was because there's a historic staircase in that building. And, for them to tear it down, they would fall from a bunch. And so they had to halt like renovations for a long time because they had to figure out how to close out that upper section. That comes to just this little section of the staircase.
I think I saw on your website that you were either a history major
Oh,
or
yeah.
not.
Well, that's my second major. Yeah, I wanted to do more stuff, history-wise, I just haven't, I get into it, but I'm the only one in PR, so it's, sometimes I gotta balance my time and.
Sure. It's time consuming to do any kind of research.
Oh, yeah, I don't know, I, we have all the archives with PR, and I really want to do a comparing what we're going to now.
Yeah.
And it's so interesting to see some of those archives, just, you know, it didn't get here as far, but it's definitely like all the advertisements, like, back then they had all the kind of advertising type things, and, all the ads where they're like, this will cure the influence of
Yeah, sure.
snake oil.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, it is really cool. We're about to donate all of our archives to, I believe, the West Point Historical Society. I think they
Well,
have.
good evening, everybody. I want to thank everybody for coming out for this community meeting. Just to give y'all, try to get as many people participating in this process as we can. Hope everyone got a summary of the changes, because that's basically the agenda for this meeting that we're going to be discussing. A couple of little things I want to point out. Please respect each other, keep your mask on if you're in close proximity. Try to keep some distancing from everybody so that we can help stem the tide of COVID that we're all having to deal with. Just want to give you a little background on what this is all about. About a year ago, the Planning Commission and the Department of Community Development was tasked with updating the county subdivision zoning ordinances. Spent the better part of the last year going through all the ordinances as far as subdivisions go, to clean them up, to make them easier to use, to bring them more current to today's standards because they haven't been updated in a long time. Now we're at the point where we've made a number of changes. Some of them will impact the community. And this part of the process is where we reach out to the community to try to get feedback on what they would like to see these ordinances. Because for those who aren't aware, the zoning ordinances for subdivisions prescribe what people can do with their property, land use, what is permitted in the county, where it's permitted in the county, and how it can be developed if it is permitted. So this sets all the rules for development in the county, for how you can subdivide your property, and then how all these things can happen. This is not a public hearing. This isn't a decision for any of the boards to make, not Planning Commission, not Board of Supervisors. This is where the community, the people who care, who it impacts, can give input, make suggestions. This is a draft ordinance. Nothing is cast in stone. 239 pages, I think this thing is. Of that, probably 60 pages is important as far as changes and how things work different and things that I believe the community should be involved with. And with that said, I just want to reiterate, there's going to be numerous more opportunities to look at this draft ordinance, make revisions before it ever goes for final approval. So anything that y'all are concerned with, not only tonight, but tomorrow and for the next couple of months, please call my office. We are taking comments, any concerns that y'all might have, call, tell us what they are, email us, send us letters, come by. These ordinances are for the county, they're not any particular department. This affects everybody, and we want as much input as we can get. So I'm hoping everyone did sign in. That helps me a lot. And just to make sure I didn't anything I want to make sure I said. That being said, I look around and I know there's a few people who have some concerns, some comments, and some suggestions. Please come forward. If y'all have this gives a really good indication of where we're going with this. We took the subdivision ordinance, which was a standalone ordinance, and we put it in section 86. To do that was to make it easier and give it more clarity. There was a lot of old things in there, a lot of confusing things, and there was a lot of things that weren't defined. And it was more important. Most of the work that we put into this was clarifying things, making it look better. Table of contents that would actually get you to places where you needed to go when you're looking stuff up. And in the definitions, let me backtrack for a minute. The draft ordinance is 239 pages long, but it can be found on the website. If you go to departments, to the Planning Commission, there's a spot that says ordinances, and it has draft ordinances, it has a link to our current ordinances, and it also has the summary changes there. Because one of the big things we went through, every definition that we had in the ordinances, to make sure that they were correct, and we went through every permitted use in the county to make sure that anything that we've had in the permitted use table was actually defined. So that people, when they're looking up, what you can do, you would have definitions and know what you were looking at. Then, let's see, Article 4, which is amendments to subdivision procedures. There's a proposal in there that was a change to how it is now. What that provides is that a site plan will be provided with any submittal for a zoning map change. So that would be an issue where if you wanted to rezone of your property from, say, residential to commercial, you would need to submit a site plan for what you plan to cut there for commercial development. That was one of the requirements. That is one of the proposed changes to the zoning ordinance. Then we've got under 5, just some regular language on proffers, because that's an example of where they changed the rules for the state, and we have to follow those and update our ordinances appropriately. Since I happen to see at least one historic architectural board person here, that whole section was redone on the basis of input from the HARB. Over in the under the articles on the Transportation Overlay District, and for those who don't know what the Transportation Corridor Overlay District is. It is a buffer area all the way down 360 and Route 30, that within 750 feet of those two roads, any development within that 750 feet have to meet special requirements for zoning. So there's different landscape things that have to be done that are different from other portions of the county. We made some changes to that, just basically for landscape buffers and more aesthetic sort of things to make sure that the development there was managed well. But that's an area that anyone with that property going along those two stretches of road may want to look at and make sure it doesn't impact them negatively. Or I really don't mind anybody who looks at these and comes and says, hey, that's a great idea. I'm sure the Planning Commission would appreciate it too. So as you look at these things, any positives are more than welcome. Then Article 6, which is, this is where minimum site size and dimensional regulations in the primary zoning districts. This is one, this along with family subdivisions has been one of the things that over the last several months we've gotten the most feedback on, and a lot of concerns voiced on the minimum lot size. And so every zoning district, we have agricultural, we have residential, we have commercial and business districts. When you go to subdivide your property, or whatever, either family subdivision or just you want to sell all pieces of your property, the zoning ordinance has minimum lot size requirements. The current ordinance right now has 5 acres as the minimum lot size in the agricultural zone. So if you have 20 acres of land and you want to subdivide it into 4 pieces, they've got to be a minimum of 5 acres each. The draft ordinance right now has it proposed at 10 acres for minor subdivisions, and family subdivisions, which are still 5 acres currently. And we're proposing in the draft ordinance to take that acreage down to 3. That's how it's proposed now. And I know that that's an issue for a lot of people that I've talked to, and I would definitely like to hear a little bit about that tonight. A couple of other things that, the next item on this, Article 7, is the use matrix. A number of people have approached us about the use matrix. The Planning Commission and staff went through this very thoroughly over put many hours in it. I would encourage everyone to take a look. These are the things that are permitted and where they are permitted. So if you want to have a barbershop in your house, or start a body shop on your property somewhere, you have to go to this table, see if it's permitted in the zone you're in, and if it is, the standards you have to follow. There were a lot of things in that use table that we added or deleted, and then the big thing with that is the permitted uses, some are by right. And what that means is, if it says it's by right, you can do it where you live, where you own property. Some of them are by conditional use permit only, which means they're allowed to be there, but you have to go to public hearings, and the county can put conditions. And we usually have standards that show you what those, what the minimum standards are, and then we can add extra. So some things that used to be by right are now conditional use permit. And those are things that impact everybody one way or another, because a lot of people wanted conditional use permits for things because if you own a house somewhere, you don't want a drive-in theater to go up right you want some more to that. That was a big issue that we spent a lot of time on. We did add some design standards, and basically that says if it is permitted, you can do it on your property, you have to follow these set of rules when you develop the property. So, and then a number of articles on here were landscaping, screening, fencing, and these go for mostly on the commercial development side and in that transportation corridor overlay district, where we want the county to look nice coming through. These were standards that hadn't been updated in years, so we added language on landscaping and put some more things just to help with their gateways into the county and through the county. A lot of clarifications. Several of y'all in this building right now know that we updated the solar facilities. That is one section that we spent a lot of time and effort on. You know, the Planning Commission had a solar committee get together. They went through current regulations and desires, and I think they came up with a really good work product. So that is a major change to the zoning ordinance. There's a few areas that we looked at that for site plan requirements, and they were edited for clarity, and also some changes like I mentioned earlier. One of them was requiring site plans for rezoning. And then, of course, the biggie, the Article 18, which was subdivisions. That's where some of the changes that we're looking at, the proposed changes for family subdivisions and minor subdivisions. I'll let y'all look down through that because those three areas, the family, the minor residentials, and one of the notes on minor residentials, one of the big things that I don't think there's a whole lot of issue with is that eliminating the multiple driveways going on and allowing for one entranceway coming out of minor subdivisions. And then we have a section on farmstead subdivisions, and that section is, as it says here, is to encourage the development of small farms, and these subdivisions are 15-acre lot sizes with up to 7. And again, this goes back to minimum setback requirements and offering a good alternative for development out in the agricultural zone. And then, now the part of a community forum is I need to hear from anyone who has any concerns or suggestions, because we are still writing this right now. Mr. Cullen.
May I come up and speak?
Please. Anybody can come up and speak.
Take this off so I can speak. What I'd like to do is boil this down for y'all. What he just said, some of us in this room deal with this every day, but if you don't, it was probably Greek to you. You're having a hard time following what he was saying. I'll take the commercial first. The big thing we hear in King William County.
Can you say who you are?
I'm sorry. My name is Darrell Kellen, 10284 West River Road in Ayler. So when you talk about commercial property here in the county, the first thing we hear is we want more commercial, more commercial, more commercial, because they think you get the tax revenue from commercial without being a burden on the county. The problem is we are very unfriendly to businesses here in King William County. One of the things Mr. Etter addressed was requiring a site plan before you can rezone a piece of property. That's putting the horse before the cart. No other county out here requires you do that. So if you own a piece of property and you want to rezone it commercial, you should be able to come in here and say, it's in the right area, it's on 360, it's businesses on both sides of me, I'd like to rezone it in case someone comes along and wants to buy it. I have the opportunity to sell it. Well, the way it's suggested now is you have to put together a site plan before you can rezone it. Well, how can you put together a site plan? You don't know what the potential buyer might be. The potential buyer is going to have a specific size building, a specific use, specific layout, where water's going to go depending on the size of the building. It's impossible to come up with a site plan. So where we're left is, we basically have no commercial property in King William County. If a business came today and wanted to be in King William County, we have nothing to offer them. 2 or 3 properties around Central Garage. So they skip over us. They go back to Hanover because by the time they come to the Planning Commission, Mr. Edder's office, the board, it's a 6-month process, and they lose interest and they move on. So that's why we're not attractive to businesses down here. So the businesses would be great. They don't send kids to school, they employ people, it's great. But in order to support businesses, you have to have rooftops to support businesses. So that goes into the residential side of it. You've got people say, stop the growth, stop the growth, stop the growth. That's fine, stop the growth. You're not going to get commercial if you don't have rooftops to support them. That's simple. I mean, Outback's not going to come here and have 2 booths full in the restaurant. They want to fill the place up. So we're never going to get the commercial that we may or may not want here without the rooftops. So the big question that I asked to the board, the Planning Commission, everyone, if we have this amount of people paying taxes in the county right now and we have no growth, what happens when the taxes go up every year, which they have to? Schools cost more, roads cost more, everything. What do you think happens then? The same people have to pay more taxes. It's simple mathematics. There's no way to offset that. So it goes into how do we grow and how do we grow responsibly. Now, I'll be the first, and for y'all here to know me, I'll probably take more fire in this county from everybody about building houses. Statistical fact, anybody can research. In 15 years, I've built 120 houses in the county. That's 8 houses a year. Just about every builder in the county is in this room right now, and we build less houses than one major developer has built in one of the major subdivisions in 15 years. The Kenningtons, the Macaulay Parks, whatever, 200 and 300 houses. The 4 or 5 of us here have not built that number of houses here in the county. Our growth rate in King William County is less than 1% a year, statistical fact. And then you get, we're going to be a burden on the, we're building all these houses, we're going to be a burden on the school system. The numbers in the school systems are down. They used to bounce somewhere between 21 and 2,200. They're down closer to 2,100 instead of 2,200 over the last couple of years. The enrollment, the attendance, for whatever reason, is down in the schools. So the family subdivision, I'll take that on. Right now, in order to do a family subdivision in King William County, you have to have owned your land 5 years. And if you chop a piece off and give it to your son, your daughter, your niece, your nephew, your spouse, or your grandparents, they have to own it 3 years. So that takes 8 years to do a family division. What's being proposed in this ordinance is you have to own it 15 years, and the person who you give it to has to keep it another 15 years. I'm sorry?
It don't make sense.
So if
That's what I'm saying.
I say I was a 30-year-old and I have a 15-year-old child, and I bought a piece of land in King William, my child would be 30 years old before I could cut them off a piece of land to live next door to me, and they would have to own it another 15 years. Now, what sense does that make that a first-time home buyer is going to keep a piece of property 15 years?
Ron, will you confirm that for us, please?
Yeah, I'll elaborate. The 15 and 15 under the state code, that is the maximum that you're allowed in the state code. So when we were looking at this part of the ordinance, we just put it in the state code.
The maximum.
Yeah, we're not really asking what the code is.
Oh,
We're asking what you're implying that you want to do.
it's not an
Or
implication.
the county wants to do. Are they implying that they want to do the maximum time allowed by law?
No, actually, I'm going to get on my soapbox for a second. We don't know what the county wants to do yet, that's part of this meeting.
Okay.
Right now, what we did, we put in 15 and 15, because right now, that's the proposed, that's the statement. That, like I said earlier, nothing's in stone at this point, and this is the feedback we need,
Did you
because,
propose that?
did I what?
Did you propose that?
Propose what?
15 years hold the property, and 15 years to your child has to hold? Or the planning department proposed
Well,
that?
no, it's in the, yeah, it's in the draft ordinance, that's how it's
Okay.
written. So 15, right now, in this ordinance, the draft ordinance, it says 15 and 15.
So
Again,
I-
this is not in stone.
Sure, I
It's-
understand that. And just to clarify, so that I understand, you may have just, are reading what the board of supervisors have come up with, or whatever, or the planning commission, or whatever. Is this what that is? Have they been involved with this as well?
Yes, yes.
So you've got some input from the board of supervisors, you've got some
No,
input.
no,
Well, not from the
no,
board, not from
Let
the
me
board.
set that straight, right. Board of Supervisors hadn't seen this at all.
Okay, planning commission, correct?
Planning commission, yes.
Okay, all right.
Yes, sir.
What is the minimum that the state requires? You said that was the maximum.
Well, that's, 15 is what you're allowed, that's the
15 is
number
the
they throw
maximum.
out there.
3 is the minimum.
I don't know if they put it 3. I can't remember for sure.
Most counties are 2 to 3 years.
Yes, ma'am.
So then, what is the rationale between changing what we currently have, the 5 and 3, to a 15 and a 15? What is the rationale behind it?
Before he answers that question, how many people have taken advantage of the family subdivision in the last 3 years?
I can only tell you for the last year.
It's 3.
Yes, sir.
Only 3 people have taken advantage in the last year of the family subdivision. And the reason King William went to 5 and 3, that happened about 15 years ago, because builders and developers were taking advantage of it. A builder who had 4 or 5 kids and stepkids and aunts and uncles would buy a piece of land, hold it for a year or 2, whatever, do a family division. So the county moved it to 5 and 3, and that basically just shut it off right there, to where it takes 8 years to do a family subdivision. A builder's not gonna, or a developer's not gonna do that. So that's the family division. The minor, this is the big one. This is the one everybody needs to pay attention to. This is the one people ride down the road and say, oh, it's just houses going everywhere, where. It's less than 1%. It's not the growth that you think it is. But again, if you don't want the growth, stop the growth. That's fine. Who's gonna pay the taxes when no more people are here and taxes keep going up?
That's right.
The people have to pay more taxes. It's that simple, because you're not gonna get commercial to offset it, you're not gonna have residential. So the way the ordinance is written right now, for the minor subdivision, it used to be 7, it went to 6, it went to 5. Mr. Etter's interpretation now is 4. You can get 4 lots out of any piece of land that you have in a minor subdivision. They have to be a minimum of 5 acres. They have to have 300-foot of road frontage. And it has to be a parent tract. It has to be a piece of property that's never been chopped up or developed before. So it's a parent tract. They're scattered throughout the county. If they have 600 feet of road frontage, you can get 2 lots. If they have 900 feet of road frontage, you can get 3 lots. 1,200, you can get 4. After that, that's all you can get. So what's being proposed, and now the setback from the road to the house is 50 feet. Most counties are between 50 and 100. What's in this proposal is 500 feet. It's not in writing, I just read it in writing.
All right, can you clarify that?
Hold on, let me hear what Mr. Wagner has to say about that.
Okay,
That's not for the minor subdivisions.
okay.
That's for the farmstead subdivision.
Yeah.
That's what I was asking.
But what is the setbacks are they proposing on the minors?
Hey, Darrell, let me chime in one thing while he's saying that you started off with that it went from 7 to 4 lots in the minor subdivision. And I would say all that was done just by different staff interpretations. There was no change in the language of the ordinance over that period of time. So that never really added up to me, and that's a significant change right there with no, that was just staff interpretations in the planning department.
But here's the big thing that I want everybody in this room to understand. Right now, there's hundreds, if not thousands, of people in this county who have worked hard their entire life.
Yes.
to pay for a piece of land and own a piece of land. It's their life's investment. So right now, if they have 10 acres, they can cut a 5-acre lot off. They can send their kids to college if that's what they need. They can supplement their Social Security if that's what they need. They can renovate their house if that's what they need. Under this new ordinance, if it goes to 10 acres, then you've got to have 20 acres to be able to cut it in half. So what people have worked for their entire life, with this new ordinance, their values will be slashed in half overnight. And it's full ordinance, and one of the questions here earlier is, with the family division, why are we changing, why are we changing any of this?
Yes.
We don't have a problem down here. We've got a few people down here, and I might step on some toes, but I like stepping on toes. It's some elitists here in the county who want to move in and shut the door behind them. I got my 30 acres.
I have to disagree with that,
Okay.
only because we get reports from fire EMS about challenges that they're faced with the growth right now, so I would say it's not just a few, it's countywide.
Well, what will change if you go to 10 acres? People can still build out in the rural areas, and you will still have challenges with fire and rescue.
Right.
So what would change?
And also you could devalue other people's property.
The only thing that would change is you would devalue property for people that have worked hard all their life. Now, let me tell you why the 5 acres works. If you want to have a place to ride a 4-wheeler, if your child wants a horse, if you like to hunt, 5 acres works for that. 5 acres right now, the average 5-acre lot in King William County is around $65,000. This one gets some eyebrows raised, but the average sales price of houses being built in King William County has gone from 200 to 300 plus. And anybody who disagrees with that, I have 4 in a row on West River Road, from $395 to $455 to $475, and all of them in that range.
And the size and square footage has gone up as well.
The houses have gotten bigger, and also a lot of the houses being built, I always get, you build these houses and people just flooding the schools with kids. All 4 of those houses that I'm speaking of, none of the 4 of them are sending kids to school. They're all second and third time home buyers or home people, and they're making lateral moves from within the county. They all 4 lived here in the county, and some of them are downsizing, but people are not, but most of them are just going to their second or third home.
Mr. Pelton, wait a second. Ma'am,
Go ahead.
back there?
Yeah.
I know you had a question or comment? Yes, ma'am.
I do have a comment and a question also. My grandson, we had to wait until he graduated out of school, went to Newport News to the shipyard. Now he is in a position where he wants to move back in the county and have a home. My husband and I, we have been going through hell trying to get him to get a home. And it's a double wide home from a mobile home place, because trying to get something built, then we come to the courthouse and they tell us he gotta have 5 acres of land. He don't need 5 acres of land. He don't know what to do with 5 acres of land. He only want a home, a place that he can have a well and a septic and be able to drive his vehicle in his yard at night, go to work, all those miles back and forth, and come back to his home and have a place to live. And it don't make sense for the county to say he needs 5 acres of land. He's not gonna plant a garden, not even interested in that, just want a place to lay his head.
Let me say this. If this ordinance, the way it's drafted, goes through, this young man and many like him won't be able to afford to live in King William County.
No, he's gonna be 75 years old before he can do
You
anything.
raise your family here, and somebody, let's call them mid-20s, out of college,
That's right.
when you go to 10 acres and the amount of infrastructure and all they're proposing, they won't be able to afford to be a first-time home buyer in King William County.
No, he won't be able to afford it.
And I'm gonna throw it out here, because I've said it to most people in here, private, so I'm gonna say it out in public. It's class warfare. The people that are here and have their own little slice of heaven, don't want the other people to come here and get their own little slice of heaven.
But
And the
that's
way of
the way I
doing
see
it is raising the acreage and all the restrictions on the property that you work for all of your life. You should be able to raise your family here, you should be able to cut your kids off a piece of land, and they should be able to afford to build on your property adjacent to you or in close proximity to you.
Yes, yes.
With the average house price now being 300, if they go to 10 acres, it'll be 350 to 400.
That's why I came down here to the zoning.
25-year-olds can afford that.
That's why I came down here to the zoning and planning committee to try to explain to them. My husband and I, we are citizens of King William County all our life. We have managed to pay for land, but we did it because we got 16 grandchildren. And these children growing up, graduating, haven't been in trouble, working hard on a job to help supply everybody else's needs in this world. Why can't they have a home?
Well,
Mr. Kell?
Yeah.
Can I ask another question? I'd like to hear the pros and cons, and I understand this young lady's concerns, and I would definitely have the same concerns too, but are there some, what are the reasons for those controls is what I would like to hear, other than your perception of rich people or people who own land that don't want anybody to move in there. I'd like to hear the other side.
well, if we're at 5 acres now and we want to go to 10, what is the reason behind that? What, I don't know.
Let's hear from the rest of the audience.
Okay.
Ms. Derrick?
No, ma'am. This isn't a public hearing. This is.
I understand it's not a public
Yeah.
hearing, but a lot of people can't hear speak.
Oh,
You should be running the meeting.
um,
And I appreciate everything you
Well,
do.
that's not the audience from
But you're dominating.
Everyone can speak. Like,
Would someone else like to speak?
Yeah.
I'd like this to be back and forth, but I'll go, I want to clarify, I want to go back to you, sir. And there are 500, it's 500, I want to give you the setback requirements of the yardage. For the way it's proposed, the minimum lot area is 10 acres. The minimum lot depth for the agricultural zone is 500, rural residential is 300, and in the R1, it's 150 feet.
Okay, now, you just said something that contradicted what you said, and I might be not understanding, but this man clarified my question back here, and then you just said something else. You said the agricultural zoning was 500 feet, and you just told him 15 minutes ago that it was a farmstead subdivision that made it 500 feet.
That's also, it's because it's in the
All right,
agricultural
so
zone.
actually it's 500 feet for both, for the
Yes.
minor subdivision and that.
If it's in the agricultural zone.
Okay, so let's get that out so everybody knows what.
No, not in the minor subdivision. Minor subdivision is still 100% setback. It's
Are
only
you
the
confirming
farm,
what he's saying, Earl?
the farmstead subdivision.
And who are you?
Excuse me?
Oh,
Who are you?
That's Don Wagner, he's on
I'm
the.
not waiting on
Planning
the
commissioner?
chairman.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what it is, the farmstead classification of subdivision is 500 feet.
I think there's just a little misunderstanding there, but yes, on the farm.
You understand what I'm talking about when you say it?
It's a big misunderstanding. 500 feet is a long ways to build a driveway, run power, maintain a road, all added expense when you build a house.
Which puts the burden onto the customer,
Yeah.
and now the customer has less money to put into their home.
We're not here to argue, we're here to listen.
Yeah, I'm not here to argue, but what I'm trying to do is understand what y'all are trying to do.
And we're not arguing, but there's a whole lot of false things being said at the planning commission when you don't have these folks here to pay attention to what y'all are saying. So let's bring it all out in public and talk about it now. That's what we're doing.
And that's the goal, yes, sir.
Can I clarify what I was asking?
Yeah, yeah.
And he has answered to you and back and forth. The farmstead on this paper says 500 feet setback. In the minor subdivision, he's saying there is not a 500-foot setback from a public road. Is that correct or incorrect?
I'll have to double check, I'll look it up.
All right, well, you just said 10 minutes ago that the zoning, agricultural zoning had a 500-foot setback. So that's a big,
Yeah,
I hear what you're saying, but, I'm trying to find it with just what y'all proposed.
Yeah, that's why I'm having this. This is why this is important to me and everyone, I want everybody to contribute.
Okay.
We're gonna check it.
And I'm gonna ask one more question.
No,
while
no,
we're here,
please.
Okay? And then everybody can talk and what they like and don't like, and
Yeah.
fight, whatever you want to do. You have a thing on here that says, with any subdivision, a site plan or something. I got the article right here.
Right, on the commercial, if you're gonna rezone,
Yeah, I understand that, but let me read what it says. subdivision procedure and requirement site plan were provided submittal for a zoning map change.
Yes, sir.
Article number 3. I'm gonna ask you point blank what that is.
What the site plan is? Or,
Again,
oh, what, the intent?
subdivision procedure and requirement site plan provided submittal for a zoning map change.
What that means,
Now, first of all,
Yeah.
we got agriculture zoning. Are you changing the zone on the property?
if you decide, if you
Decide
want to rezone, this is only if you're going to rezone.
Okay.
If you
All right.
came into the office and
Are
said
you
rezone.
confirming that?
I'm not confirming or
Okay.
arguing with anything, I'm just here to listen.
So are we actually changing the zone?
That's if, you can change zoning the way, and I haven't forgotten you. I'll get back there in a second.
And I'm not trying to make confusing or anything,
No.
but it's very confusing because you said commercial, residential to commercial. Well, I mean, not the property that most of these people in this room are looking at agriculture.
Right, a lot of this
If
is
you do a subdivision
agricultural.
agriculture, you would put rezoning this
But
thing?
that's part of this whole revisions of the subdivision ordinance. It's not just the residential or the agricultural, it's all of the reasons.
All right, well, I'm gonna take that one more step further and I'm gonna shut up. All right, if you have to rezone the property to a minor subdivision, there is no by right minor subdivision.
Yes, sir.
Not if it's gotta be rezoned.
It doesn't have to be rezoned.
Zoning dictates
That's-
use and subdivision dictates density.
A minor subdivision, you don't need a rezoning, it's by right in the agricultural zone.
Okay, well, when you start rezoning property, somebody can have any reason to deny it.
Yes,
Okay, so it's not about right.
but you don't have to rezone for a minor subdivision.
Okay, all right,
So it's not.
So that's not clear,
on-
okay.
On minor.
all right. Y'all go carry on.
Yes, sir, way in the back.
I don't know whether I'm confused or not, but thinking about this before coming here tonight, I was under the impression, is this a way of vetting the people that are here and forcing the people out that want to stay here? Meaning, it's like what was said, okay, if I'm here and I'm satisfied with what I have, and they want to talk 10, and you can't come here and build unless you have 10, then I'm satisfied and you can't come because you don't have 10. Is that a way to keep people out so that we can be satisfied with what we have that are here?
It's a great question.
I'm trying, because my job is to figure out what's best for the county and
Mhm.
how we can enforce zoning laws. And the whole point of zoning rules is for neighbors to get along with each other
I
and
understand
respectful.
that.
So whether
It's
it's,
a way for them to control the growth.
right, I'm here to manage growth.
That's what they're trying to do, is slow or stop the growth
Yeah,
by
that's,
making the bigger lots so that only the people, the upper echelon who can afford the 350,
That's the way I see
can
it.
afford to live here.
that's
And I
the way
don't,
see it.
I will say from the county standpoint, I don't support either one of those opinions, not Mr.
Okay.
Kellum's, nor do I believe people are trying, yes, there's a desire to, some people want to slow growth. Zoning is a method of either encouraging growth, managing growth, you can slow the growth, all of these are things, and that's part of what we want to hear,
Mhm.
is how the perception, how you see it.
Yeah.
And you're telling me that you see it as basically keeping other people out.
Keeping the growth out.
And see, that's I'm only taking I just need your opinion. And
Yeah, that's what
that's
I'm-
what I'm,
Yeah.
thank you, because that's
Okay.
important to help me make decisions too. Yes, sir.
I guess the question that I'm struggling with is what, this thing was proposed by someone, which I'm very new to this. I've never been to one of these meetings before. And I don't understand what problem is trying to be solved by making such a change. And if people had an idea of what problem we're trying to solve, I mean, you can call it class, we can call it this, but what is the problem that the county is trying to solve to make such a change?
Well,
It's real simple.
If it ain't broke, don't fix it.
What problem are they trying to solve? Someone proposed this for some particular reason. So what would be the reason?
Well, I mean, the first of the over, I'm going to step back just a little bit. The overall reason for changing the zoning and subdivision had nothing to do with minors, families, all of that other stuff. It was because the ordinances needed to be upgraded, updated, and better, easier to use. Now, as, of course, once you get in that, then you start looking at, you know, the planning commission's job is to recommend to the board of supervisors changes that they feel are in the best interest, the welfare community, and so, and that's why we have these meetings. So as we're doing these proposals is to make sure that it's basically a desire, where does the county want to go? So what we're trying to fix, there's nothing, well, it depends on who you talk to. But as far as nobody sat down and said, man, we just need to change all of this around and put 15 years on family subdivisions. That wasn't how it was.
That actually is not true.
Go ahead.
In the planning commission meetings, that is what is talked about. 3 or 4 of the planning commission come, and they're supposed to represent their district as a whole, but they come with their opinions of what they would like to see. And again, I'll ask the question as was asked to me. What benefit do we get out of raising the lot size to 10 acres? What is the benefit of that? And we have a planning commission member here. I'd like to know, what is the benefit of going to 10 acres?
I'd like to know the answer to that.
Well, and I will take,
I mean, can I get an answer to that question?
well, if you're comfortable, that's,
No,
okay.
we will take the comments. We'll review all of your comments. But I want everyone's comments, not yours. And I appreciate what you've got to say. But I don't want you controlling the meeting.
Would somebody else ask that question?
No, no.
Well, I'll jump in.
Make it clear.
I would like to know, what is it? Yeah.
By going to 10 acres, it does, it establishes, maintains the agricultural, one of the reasons that has been given for the 10 acres is it helps to maintain the rural and agricultural nature of the county. One of the problems with, one of the concerns that has come up, and not just from the planning commission. I mean, I'm out, as most of y'all know, I try to talk to everybody. And that's why I wanted to do this tonight, and so I can hear from everybody. But one of the things is, it's not just members of the planning commission or anybody like that. A number of people have come in and said, man, and you've heard it, Mr. Kellum, how many people, you build houses everywhere, God. You know, there's houses going up everywhere. The 10 acres would slow that down. There wouldn't be that many houses being built. It would help keep the woods, the farmland.
How do you say that though? Because there's still
No,
hundreds of lots out there that are already 3, 5, 6, 7, 8. And if you go to 10, you're still gonna, if you got 20, you cut it in 2. If you got 30, you cut it in 3. So would you confirm that the growth rate in King William is less than 1%?
I can't because I haven't done the math.
The growth
But
rate-
I will tell you
The
that,
growth rate is right at 10% for the last 10 years. 10% is a good rate of growth in the rural county.
And we're less than 1%.
10% in a year, in 10 years. 1%.
So you're saying we're on track, you're saying we're on track. Okay.
but what I'll go back to what I was saying. Neither the Planning Commission nor the Department of Community Development, I'm not on a side. What I'm trying to do and what the Planning Commission is trying to do is what we feel is in the best interest of the community. And the only way I can do that, and they can do that, is to hear from you, and that's what this is. So as far as why and the logic, most of what we were doing, going through and updating these ordinances, as I told the Planning Commission in my first thing up here, is that this is a draft ordinance. The 15 and 15 years, I will tell you all this point blank.
when we were doing that, that was a placeholder for me. Because 15 and 15, 3 and 5, I wasn't sure which way the community, what would be in the best interest of the community. Don't know, and the planning commission doesn't know. So that's what we do, we work together.
Not 15. I
And
mean,
see,
it's unrealistic.
and that, but see,
As a generational landowner, it's unrealistic. Hanover doesn't do it, Albemarle County doesn't do it.
and see, this
It's,
is
it's
perfect.
unrealistic.
That,
It
that
really is.
comment
It's unrealistic.
is what we can take and we take under consideration. Yes, sir.
Would you have people to give their names on this thing?
Oh, okay. Thank you, Ms. Hannon. Yes, sir.
Name's Michael. Ron, if the growth rate is truly only 1% a year, what's the impetus to throttle it back? That doesn't sound excessive at all.
And from what I'm hearing tonight, it may not be.
And
But it's not a decision I'm gonna sit here and, oh, well, no.
if we can't attract businesses, commercial establishments, because we don't have the rooftops, why are we trying to throttle?
Well, I'd like to expand on that, if I can have another minute. I still didn't get an answer to the question. If we throttle it back and we go to 10 acres and the growth cuts in half, what happens to the taxes that have to be paid every year? How do we save taxpayers' money moving forward?
Do we have anybody that has lots of land here tonight?
Yeah.
Well, you can-
Yeah, a few
Yeah,
people.
a lot of people do.
You know, something that could be divided into like 100 different 10-acre lots or 5-acre lots.
Okay. Ask your question.
You go ahead.
I was just curious, what would be some of the concerns of having, narrowing it down to just 10 acres with chunk? I heard this young lady has some valid concerns. If you have only 30 acres and you can only do 3, you can only sell it, spin it off to 3 family members.
Some of the concerns would be, you have to look at each individual tract and what that tract is composed of. So if you've got tracts of land that also have marginal lands in there, like wetlands and things that you've got to work around, it could be difficult to configure profitable 10-acre lots. You also have to look at the consumer.
And
How
also,
many
they gotta be
individuals,
able to-
I'm hearing this woman in the back talk about a son that maybe is more economically benefited to an acre or 2-acre lot. So when you look at a 3-acre lot and a 5-acre lot, you've got more chance to, build a nice establishment there that is still in a reasonable price range for the consumer. But I think, you've got to keep that in mind, and then you limit, as far as when you get into the other restrictions, such as proffers and setbacks, you've got to work with marginal land, you've got to work with EPA and all those things that are involved, and they can throw some real wrenches into that when you start getting into bigger lot size.
And I will,
On that same question, when you increase your lot size, by the way, I'm David Berwick, live on High Tan Trail. If you increase the lot size and the county is not prepared for that increase, and neither is the economics of the county in itself when it comes to the commercial, what you'll do is you cannot stop development. Development will go on, and that 10-acre lot will be decreased in value because it just doesn't add up with the equal economics that are already here. And what'll happen is you'll start getting 10-acre lots being sold for, say, a 5 and 65. You might get a 10 for 68 or 70. But then again, with a long setback as well, you're going to increase the cost to the buyer. So therefore, it drives the square footage down, and it also decreases the tax basis of that home. So now you got a 1,200 square foot house on a 10-acre lot. If you hit it at the right time, like Hanover, when they made those changes, they already had the economic value there of jobs when it comes to the commercial side. And so naturally, their prices of their lots increased, and they increased their lot size at that time to slow it down. But all they did was increase their tax basis with $600,000 and $700,000 and $800,000 houses. We're not quite there yet. I think it's a little bit of early time period to go there at the moment. Will it be available in the future?
We don't need
Yes,
to get there.
but we're not there yet.
hold on for Mr. Carter. Mr. Carter?
The question I had was, they want 10 acres of land for one house on it, but then you got these apartment houses going on.
Now, that's where we come back to the zoning issues. Now, you can take certain people, you can take tracts of land, and you can have them rezoned. You can get them rezoned for high density, like your apartments, you know, townhouses, or you can get just regular residential, you know, moderate, or you know, just have the single zone. But you have to actually get that property rezoned, go through a whole process to get it rezoned to allow that many houses to go on one little lot, or one little parcel. Well, let me make sure I'm.
Meaning that they're always.
Let me make sure I got
always-
Mr. Carter straight.
Yeah, that was my question.
Is that, okay.
Can you tell the audience what they'll run into if they go to get a government-backed loan on more than 5 acres?
FHA, not,
USDA, FHA,
yeah, there's a
first-time home buyer loans.
a lot of, and again, that is something that a number of real estate agents have commented to me before, and then I found out personally that they do not like to write mortgages for anything over 5 acres.
No, they do not.
5.11 is a problem for them, which is the lot size that I have. Yes, sir.
Brian Johnson, 44 Little Woodbury Road. The comment was made a minute ago that the 10-acre lot size would be, I guess I interpreted it as beneficial to agriculture and forestry. And I'm from a long-standing farming family in this county and involved with the ag lobbying organization, so I'm pretty well versed in agriculture as well as forestry. And I can't think of any benefit that I see for agriculture or forestry in this county by going to a 10-acre lot. I interpret it the opposite way, that it would hurt those two industries because a 10-acre lot's not big enough to cut timber. You can farm it, but it's not ideal. And so I just wanted to offer that input because I disagree with that comment that was made a minute ago.
And y'all bear with me for a minute, though. The subdivisions, the comments that we've received tonight on the family and commercial and the minors, they're really good, but just don't want to take a break from that. Is there, other than the minor subdivisions, is there anyone here who wants to bring up anything else, please? And please state your name for the record.
I can take my mask off.
You may.
I'm having trouble breathing. My name is Lisa Mason, and this is my husband Peter and my neighbor Rick.
Do I know you?
Yeah, sort of. I don't know how many people know. We live down Roanoke Trail, and our neighbor put in a bed and breakfast, and it's the only bed and breakfast in the county. Kind of an unusual place, let me just leave it at that. He seems to have very, very few restrictions in what he can and can't do. And I, honest to God, I read the new zoning from cover to cover, all 200 pages, and I don't have a lot of real comments in there, but I did look back and I analyzed the short-term rental agreements, and I assume that's like a cabin, somebody wanting to rent a cabin or something like that in the woods or whatever, short-term rental. You know, somebody wants a week in the woods or whatever. They have a lot of restrictions in there about the age of the person who can rent it, the number of people who can rent in it there. They have to have a business license and they have to go by a number of restrictions. They have to pay a county tax. I don't know what call it that tax is, it's the occupancy tax.
I'd have to go into it like
They have to pay a tax that, based like a hotel or those types of things. Like I said, he has to have a business license and the people in a short-term rental.
And to clarify, that's more like your Airbnbs, so that's what you're referring to. On the short-term business rental portion?
No. No. I mean, he's rented on an Airbnb type site.
Oh, no, I know, I mean, I'm talking with what you were just.
My objection here is there's a restriction that there's no recreational vehicles allowed, no short-term business rentals less than overnight. You know, like people coming and going for every 2 hours or for a 4-hour afternoon or that kinds of things. Our biggest problem is that there's no regulation. There's no, no enforcement. There's a short-term rental license is suspended if there's a failure to collect their taxes. And if there's 3 substantiated complaints, noise, trash, and things like that, they lose their license. And then there's a whole appeals period that has to do with that in there. And I don't have a problem with any of that. But I do think all of that thing should be under the bed and breakfast. And it's a shame, because this has been abused. This one person has abused this for anybody who wants to rent their house on like Airbnb and the like. The other thing is, and Ron and I have talked about this, that he would be grandfathered in. And I think he should not be allowed to have a business license or renew his business license unless he agrees to the new terms. There's no reason that somebody who rents a cabin should be any different than somebody who rents a bedroom out of their house. He should have to follow those same rules and regulations. He should pay a tax. He should, if he's going to run a business, especially, I guess our biggest problem is he's in a, by right, he's in an agricultural conservation district. He's by right in a business district, and then he's by a conditional use permit in a rural residential area. We moved to an agricultural conservation district so that we wouldn't have businesses in our backyard or in our fences, the case may be. And he's allowed to do whatever. He has no reason that he would get his business license pulled. He has no restrictions. We can complain till the cows come home. And they just say stop. And it stops for a while, and it continues. And there's no way that we have been able to just stop the nuisance of a business next door to us. And that's why I really think that we need to make that retroactive, or not retroactive, but he needs to, no grandfather clause.
Well, there's one bed and breakfast in the whole county, he's the only one.
And I don't think there's any hardship in changing those rules.
He's gonna have truly a bed and breakfast.
And again, I take the time,
I know your opinion, you're on both sides.
No, well, in fact, the comments.
That's what he knew I had to say.
Yeah. Well, and that's, and so again, we need to know this comment.
Because all of you who are in agricultural conservation, you know, they can live in next door.
away from one person, not everybody, gotta take it away from everybody.
Yes.
You know, I won't make a decision.
I understand it, but I needed them to know.
Yes.
I think you
That's the,
over here.
With anybody.
I just looked at,
yes, sir.
yeah, I think
This is my husband Peter.
just in a general sense, I don't think that any use that allows for an excessive amount of customers or overnight stays should be a by right availability to the owner. That should be a conditional use regardless.
In the home occupation things, you have it restricted to a small number of cars. And it is a home, it's kind of a cross between the rental and the home occupation. And, you know, he's got a business license, he's running a business. We should be able to kind of say how he runs his business if he's going to be an agricultural. I mean, we moved there for all of the reasons it's an agricultural conservation. We didn't want to be near people, we wanted peace and quiet.
And my comments general on campground, anything where somebody is coming and staying overnight should not be a by right availability for the, because if it's a truly, you know, the bed and breakfast, like one thinks of a bed and breakfast, an old farmhouse sitting on 300 acres, nobody's gonna care, and it's gonna go through fine. You know, the conditional use process will be easy, and it's no hardship upon the homeowner to make it go through that process.
I appreciate because that gives us something to consider.
Right, make it a conditional
Very
use
important.
versus a by
Yes,
right.
sir.
This is just a general comment about the whole thing and more of a question. If a citizen doesn't like what's here, and how would they properly go about voicing their opinion, even not in this meeting? Would it be just directly
They
contacting their?
can call me, they can call the office, they can email us, they can write us a letter, they can come by. What I've done, as some of you know, I've tried very hard to get the word out to give me comments on these draft ordinances. And we're going to continue to take comments and concerns and suggestions all the way through the process. Anyone who has a concern who doesn't want to do it in a public setting, it's not like I'm ever going to publish your names or anything. Give us a call. Give the staff a call. We take the comments. We make a record. You've been in my office a couple of times, and trust me, there's a little notebook I keep in there.
I just want a lot of folks that don't know how to do it to be told how they can do it and express themselves and make sure that they're heard.
And I encourage y'all to, yes, sir.
Bruce Johnson, 29,900 Kingsley Road. Is it a procedure to ever have a referendum and vote on these things rather than having have this mechanism that we're dealing with right now?
I know this may come as a weird thing for me to say. I don't really get on the politics side of things. I don't know. I know that there's been issues in the county where they wanted to go to referendum.
We can.
I was going to say, I forgot Mr. Greenwood's here.
Yes, that's unfortunate. That's all I wanted to tell everybody too. Let me just throw something in. Anybody can come to public comment period in the planning commission meetings or the board of supervisors meetings. We can talk about anything you want as long as it's not public hearing for that night. So we would encourage anybody to come. Like I said, I haven't seen a lot of these people in a long time. I've tried to encourage some of you to come, and that's where we really need to see you, because that way the whole board can see. It's not just this, and maybe, like I said, some of the views aren't come across as everybody says. And plus, I agree with everybody in here. That's why I got into politics. I thought we could put anything we wanted on a referendum. That would be the most fair way, I would think, to vote on anything, to make it happen with the voice of the public, of the community. But that's one thing that is not allowed. It's awful. You have to have so many, right, it's restrictions, you have to have. The government, right, yes, the state.
The state is not allowing referendums. Let's really.
I know, it sucks, right.
Yeah, it's a weird politic thing where the state, the state gives us, it's weird, the state gives us permission to do things. So if we wanted to do something like golf carts on public roads, we have to get permission from the state to allow us to pass an ordinance to do that. And I believe, like I said, I'm not very good at the politics side of things, but I believe that's the same thing. We would have to ask permission from the General Assembly, and then they would have to decide whether we were able to allow our citizens to vote on a certain thing. But I do encourage you to call the office. Yes, ma'am. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
My name is Lisa Robertson. I live on Upshaw Road, and I'm glad this gentleman asked the question about the communication as far as who we would email or call. I know I called you, Ron, and I got your email and you responded, but I'm in the 3rd district, Mr. Greenwood. And I would like to say that I have tried several times to reach you, but your voicemail was full. And I also sent an email, but I never got a response.
Okay.
So if you all could please, if we going to communicate like that, please make an effort to respond to those in your district, and please try to clean your voicemail out at the end of the day.
Right, we've had a lot of things with the corona, but can I get your number afterwards?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
1 second, let me go here.
Just one comment that I want to get everybody aware of here. There's so many moving parts and so many discussions to this, but I believe this is trying to be passed in the next 60 days. I think it's very unfair to this community. Our kids can't go to school, we have to wear a mask, we have to, most people are scared to come tonight to even be here to voice their opinions. This has, in my opinion, a huge negative effect on most every property owner in the county. We've had this system for years and years and years. What is the urgency? This is the first meeting. And as you just heard Ms. Roberts say, I mean, getting phone calls and emails, why does this need to be shoved through this year? And it's like we went back and forth about the 500 feet. Is it, ain't it? Is it, ain't it? I don't know. I'll look it up. We need to have a clear understanding of what we're going to have so we know what the problem is so we can offer a solution. And trying to do that amidst, we can't vote in person, we can't go to school 5 days a week, we can't, you know, all the things we're going, it's the most inopportune time to try to do this, and I just don't see the wisdom in trying to do it in the next 60 days.
And Zoom meeting doesn't work.
Yes, sir.
How y'all doing this evening? My name is Kerry Lawrence, I live in the county, I've lived since 1988 in the county. I own like 60 acres in Cumberland County, and this proposal that this man and I guess the planning commission has proposed or talked about or thought about or whatever, I'm gonna give you an example that this is how this affects me. And whether it be right, wrong, or otherwise, I'm gonna let y'all decide on what y'all think. But further along, nobody said anything about parent track rules. That's one thing. All right, well, we're going to ask this man a question. There's no parent tracks in the county. How many minor subdivisions can be done?
There's no limit to the number of minor subdivisions.
There's no parent track rule?
I'm not
Okay.
sure what you're referring to.
You can only do
What
you can only do a minor subdivision.
Okay, that's what we're talking about, minor subdivisions. Okay. So, I believe the regulations say if your property's been cut after 1986 or somewhere about that, maybe 89, that you are qualified for parent tract rule status if it hadn't been divided. Now, if all the tracts have been divided since 1989, I'll ask you another question. Can you do a minor subdivision? The answer is no. So you can't do it according to the ordinance. Does everybody know that? You've read that, Darrell? That's correct. So that's a catch net right there, that you're weeding through a lot of parcels. That you know, that's a real thing. That exists. And I'm sure he knows what I'm speaking of. But a parent tract rule, you may own 1,000 acres, but if it was divided after 1986 4 times, guess what? It's a rezoning case. It's a major subdivision case. Well, he can tell you all about that. So minor subdivision is actually winning for that tract. But I'm gonna come back to me and tell you the situation I have. I have a 750 acre tract, and we're gonna call it a parent tract. We'll say it has all its division rights available, okay? You got a piece of, the property dynamics are 2 miles of road frontage, and I own this, it's about 2 miles from here. And you've got a piece of paper that says 1 entrance. 2 miles of road frontage, 1 entrance. Well, 4 lots, 4 or 5 acre lots of 750 acres, really doesn't down to a hill of beans. I paid a premium for the property. I paid for a premium for the property that had road frontage. And to say, as long as you can't come up with one spot, is absolutely ridiculous on 4 parcels. And here I'm sitting with 750 acres that I paid millions of dollars for. And y'all are talking about enacting something of that nature. And that's how it affects me. Now, I'm not going to go out of this meeting mad. I'm not going to go out disgusted. I'm just going to say I hope that people can look at every situation and understand that it's not always 30 acres. It's not always 200 acres. It's not always 1,000 acres. But there's one thing that's fact that's in y'all's ordinance. It says 1986, no divisions of minor subdivisions can be created after this date or it's counted against it. So if you got 4 lots and 2 were laid off, 2 cut off after 1986, you get 2 divisions. Simple. What a confusion about that. And that kind of really sways the thing of, what are we even here for? Are there that many parent tracts? I buy land all the time. And out of 10 tracts, you might have 2 parent tracts. You might have 3. A lot of them have been divided over the years, and development rights all gone. I think Darrell probably looked at some of this up, or anybody else. But, so that is something to consider. And, you know, and think about, and also this 500 feet setback, 500 feet, I mean, where does that come from? You know.
$10,000 driveway.
Well, you know, and from your standpoint, I took 110 lots in 2011 because I paid $60,000 a year in taxes on them. I put a conservation easement on it. I did away with it. Mostly because the taxes were so high and development was in the crapper and all that good stuff. But still, I did away with it. But the 500 feet on minor subdivisions, on 4 lots, my 750 acres, just doesn't seem realistic. The 15 or 30 year why that was talked about on the, family division, that's really not realistic either. And everybody like to think that everybody stays together if they're a married couple, but they don't. What are these people supposed to do?
Or what if your children don't want it?
Or whatever, so that's all I'm saying, and it's, I appreciate you standing up here and taking on this fire, but, that's just something from my corner that I think is for real. And the parent track rule is something that needs to be talked about. And I'm gonna ask them a question, is the 25-acre rule being changed at all? Okay.
Oh, it could be, it depends on.
It's not on this paper?
No.
Okay.
Again, that's proposed.
Okay.
Ms. Ivey?
What I'd like to ask
Sure.
is for, okay, so if you don't like what's proposed, do you want to remain with what's in our ordinances, or what do you want to see?
Well, this is what I have available to me. I paid, and this is my choice, nobody in this room made me spend millions of dollars for this property. I bought it if I wanted to. But if I chose to sell any of it under a minor subdivision, I get 4 5-acre lots. And I think that is adequate. Now, something was said about 7, 5, 4, earlier. I think the ordinance may have changed a little bit since the 7 was being done. I don't know if it has or not, but it has decreased. That's a fact. And, by 750 acres, I cut 5 4-acre, 5-acre lots, 4 5-acre lots on it. Is that really going to make that big a difference to you, the fire department? I'm asking you. For 750 acres, is that 5 people, is that going to make that much difference? No. So, okay, that's all I'll say.
Thank you.
It's good to see you.
I know.
Ms. Cullen?
One thing that we haven't talked about here that is a viable solution, I'll tell everybody that I work with, anybody can tell you the problem, tell me the solution. If you go to these other counties around here, and I agree with one thing, the going down the road, chopping up lots, driveway, that sometimes is a problem. Site distances, VDOT issues, whatever, pipes in the ditches. A lot of these counties have an ordinance that will allow you to do a gravel road, pave the entrance 25 feet in, 50 foot wide, so cars can come and go without spinning on and off the road, and stack your houses where they can hardly be seen from the road. But they will give you an option to do 7 lots with a variation of 2 to 10 acre lots. And what that does, that offers this young man a 2-acre lot, if that's the stage of life he's in. And if somebody wants 10 acres to have a horse or ride their 4-wheeler, it gives them a place, or dog kennels, which is a huge issue for you right now. If somebody wants to have dog kennels, then they can purchase a 10-acre lot. If they are the stage in life first-time home buyer, there's something for everyone, and we're not keeping them out by saying 10 acres, $350,000 houses, or you can't live here. So that addresses the VDOT, the number of roads issues. That's a viable option. And you set buffers where, let's say the first 2 houses have to be 150, 200 feet from the road, and where available, leave a tree line buffer. And then the rest of the houses are up that gravel road, and you don't see them.
Now, under that scenario, you're not talking about increasing the density, you're still coming with an average of 5-acre lots.
Right, they just will allow you to do 2 to 10, like I
So
could
you're
do
averaging the
a
size.
10, 2 5s, a 3, and a 2.
Right.
And that doesn't discriminate, so to speak, against anybody, what point of life they're
Still
in.
keep the average.
Still
You're
keep
averaging,
that.
so you still have, you're still getting the same.
Because, I mean, let's be honest, everybody is entitled to the American.
That makes a lot of sense.
It really does. Thank you very much.
Everyone is entitled to the American dream, and if you're a 2nd, 3rd, 4th-time home buyer, and you can go out and afford your 30 acres, God bless you. But not everyone's in that boat, and everyone in this county, I don't care who you are, you have a right to be in this county, you have a right to live close to your family, your friends, your church, whatever's important to you. And going to anything bigger than what we have now would be discriminating against those people.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Well, I know we're not supposed to talk, I'm not gonna talk business, but.
You're Mr.
Right.
Greenwood,
Yeah,
and you
Mr.
live in
Greenwood,
the
Board of
3rd District.
Supervisor, Chairman, and 3rd District, and Planning Commission, so. I try to call everybody, but as a fun thing, I wanted to tell everybody, telemarketers are filling up my, every day I get 10 of them, they leave 3-minute calls, but anyway, I'll get back with you. Can you ask the public, like you said, people are wanting to know what we should go with. They don't like the 15-15 placeholder. Ask a consensus of what they want to see. Do they want what was there before? Do they want something different? Do you want like Mr. Kellum said, a range? That way, because if we go out of here and we don't know any more than we started with, we're not going to know what we're doing.
I know a whole lot more.
Well, I do too, but that way we got the consensus.
I would just say on the family subdivision thing, what you have is plenty, if not too much. It needs, if anything, it needs to be less. I mean, it's an 8-year period now, you're talking about 30, it needs to be 8 or less.
And it's 5 acres now. It shouldn't be 5 acres for a family.
Now, I will tell you on the proposed ordinance, family has
3,
Is it
but it's
3?
also proposed 15 years. It ought to be, like Brian said, 5 and 3 or something less, and it should be reduced from 5 acres to 2 or 3 for a family member.
Well, let me, and you say 2 or 3, why couldn't it go to 1 in the situation back there? What's the problem with a 1 acre lot?
Yeah, I know with the Carters, it's a
Trailer.
1.78 is I happen to know, is what they're looking at.
It used to be less than 5 acres here a few years ago.
No, he won't be able to do it.
Yeah.
He won't be able to put right now.
I will tell you what I know about that part of it is 12 years ago, because I had to look it up. 12 years ago, they changed, they took out the ability to get an exception for family subdivision to take it down to an acre.
What was that? I didn't hear that.
I'm sorry, I can't.
About 12 years ago, the county, they used to be, you could get an exception on the family subdivision to go down to 1 acre. You could apply to the Board of Zoning Appeals, get an exception. About 12 years ago, they took that out of the ordinance and they stopped allowing exceptions in the family subdivision. So that's where that came from.
The county did it, not the state.
That was a county
And
thing.
the state is the one that mandates family divisions.
Right. Well, I mean, the state
But the
mandates
county
all
took
of our
it upon
ordinances.
themselves to do that.
But
The
yeah,
state didn't mandate they do that.
but that was 12 years ago, and that's where that came from.
What was the reason for that?
I don't know, I wasn't here.
That's before I was.
What I understand, well, actually, Stephen, you might know, but my understanding was there was some abuses.
Right, back then, but of course, back then, we had abuses in every department. We had them in the administrator, we had them in zoning, and I'm not anything against Ron, but yeah, we had a zoning administrator that did not want any growth for King William. And he came to our Chamber of Commerce meetings that were supposed to be growth, like you said, commercial, and said King William doesn't want growth.
Seems like that's the way it is, they want it now too.
But that's,
I just would say there's a lot of situations where someone might have a 2 acre parcel and it may be suitable to cut off 1 acre to a family member. That 1 acre lot should be perfectly appropriate, in my opinion, but that's just my opinion.
and again, that's all these things that we need to consider here. That's why we're gonna continue. I'm hoping that between now and whenever, because I'm just defer, you still give me the comments. Yes, sir.
Could you clarify the minimum? You said the state had a maximum of 1550, and somebody said that, is it the state that has the minimum of 3? Or is it just we're doing
The
that?
state allows up to 15 years.
Now, I understand the
But I
maximum.
don't know the minimum.
So I don't understand why you have to have a 3 and an 8 or whatever it's, I don't even know what, anyway, total 8.
Well, that came from the one individual in this county that was taking advantage of the system. And that's where they jumped to the.
All I'm asking, can that be reduced
Yes.
legally?
Again, everything in this draft ordinance, nothing is in stone.
Right,
This
so the
isn't
state is
something
not mandating a minimum.
Right, right. We
That's-
can
I
change
saw a
it.
clarification.
Oh, okay, yeah.
I hope the.
So we can do this
takes note
sort of
that.
divisions, yeah. Yes, ma'am.
If you have a lot and my mother left us this land and we have a home on it, but no one is living in the home. So I have a niece that wants to buy the land with the house on it, but she wants to tear the house down and put up another house. So how many acres do she need for that?
An existing lot, there's no minimum on an existing lot. So once you've already got the lot, it doesn't matter. That's why there's so many small lots still in the county. So it's called non-conforming, but you can build a house on that lot because it
How
already
many
exists.
acres can we give her for that? Do we,
Now,
we giving her that land?
as the
Do we
current
give her
ordinances,
3 acres?
the current ordinances would be 5.
That's what I said,
I don't think that's.
Yeah, that's, I mean, Ms. Carter knows.
Yeah, because that's what I'm going through right now. And I can't see why my grandson would need 5 acres of land.
Is that for family subdivision too?
As the current
Oh,
ordinance
okay.
is 5 acres,
Okay.
minimum subdivision agricultural.
They want everybody to have 5 acres starting out. No, it is.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
That Lisa and I were talking about, and then this is one of these things where I think this needs to be a 6-month process, not a 60-day process. If you have multiple heirs that own a piece of property, they cannot family divide it because it's in multiple people's names. It has to be deeded to one person. That one person has to own it 5 years before they can cut a family member a piece off. And there's hundreds, if not thousands, of properties out here that are owned by multiple people, whether it be brother and sister, parents, kids, whatever. So that's something that needs to be clarified in the family division as well. The state law says that one person has to have ownership. So if it's multiple heirs, if Lisa and her siblings owned a piece of property, and Lisa wanted to cut a piece off for her child, the piece of property would have to be deeded to Lisa. Lisa would have to own it 5 years before she could cut her child off a, right now, 5-acre lot.
And then a family subdivision.
As a family subdivision. And there's thousands of parcels out there throughout the rural parts of King William that are owned by multiple heirs.
All throughout Virginia.
Yeah, that's correct, yeah. We're just trying to solve this little.
And the 5 years is what it is now, or is that what we're proposing?
It's 5 and 3.
Right now, you have to have owned it 5.
The original one.
And if you cut off and
They have to
give
own
your
it for
son
3
or
more years.
whatever,
Okay.
they have to own it 3 years
God,
before
that's
they
where
can
the 8
sell
came
it.
from, okay.
And that 8-year window is what really put the clamps on what Brian was saying. The one gentleman who was taking advantage of it, because I think he had a dozen kids, and he would buy a piece of property and just cut it in 12 lots, and he
Yeah, I've seen a
it
few
went to
of these really weird 12 and 14 lots that I think came from the family subdivisions. You know how confused I get about the 5, 6, 7.
My point being is so many moving parts to this ordinance, and it's so important, and it affects every single person in the county. And I will tell you, there's people, including Mr. Greenwood, who didn't even know about this meeting tonight until I told him about it. And there's at least 15 people in this room that didn't know about this meeting until I told
Was
them.
there a public notice of this meeting?
There it was.
I could have found out, I just, I don't
It
look
was
at
on the
yeah,
county
I don't look
website,
at the
it was on
public.
Nextdoor, it was on
Can't keep up
King
with
William Happenings Facebook. We did direct emails to a lot of, all the boards.
Maybe for contract.
We actually, in the county courier, we put an ad in the county courier. And unfortunately, that wasn't enough, because I know
Right.
not only Mr. Greenwood, but 3 or 4 other people have come to me and said, really, Ron? I'm like, I'm thinking skywriting.
Let me speak in his defense too. Legally, none of the planning commission or board of supervisors should be here, because this was a meeting supposed to be held by Ron with contractors and the public. But since there were so many complaints, and like I said, that's why we really probably shouldn't be talking, as long as we don't say anything with another planning commission member or supervisor that's anything about business. So that's why I have to keep him way over here, not speaking to any of the other members. But that was the original plan, but now we can all sit in and listen, and I figured I needed to sit in and listen. So did the rest of the board members, I hope.
But a lot of people didn't even know what you were talking about.
Right.
Right, and that's one of the reasons to have this, and we're trying to do outreach as much as we can to get people thinking about it and calling, email me, you know, the planning commission has to have the information. It's one thing for me to be in the parking lot somewhere and somebody comes up to me and says, or I can't believe, what is 15 acres? That's such a horrible thing. Okay, that's great, but that information, I have to find a way to share it and make sure that we get all these comments, and that was one of the reasons we're here tonight. And like I said at the beginning, this isn't going to be the only chance at public hearing. I mean, we're going to take all of these, all the comments that we've got here tonight, some comments I've received previously. I'll leave out the dull part. But she called these ordinances dull. I don't know why.
Can you tell us, all of this is being driven right now from the planning commission. It has not gone to the board at all. They've not even heard about this. Can you tell us, in an effort to have full transparency so we know how to go back to our districts and deal with it, how many of the 5 planning commission members are for this or against this?
It's not a for or against.
Right, this is still the planning stage.
That the planning commission is working on a draft ordinance to make a recommendation to the board of supervisors to adopt it. So it's not a proponent, it's not a them and us thing. We've got a draft ordinance that is currently being worked on. So none of this is in stone. All these comments, the planning commissioners are going to take them into account. I'm going to, I think my deadline is Thursday, to give them a summary of the comments, some of my recommendations. We're going to have work sessions. So it's not a matter of who's pushing any, nobody's pushing anything.
Where did the draft come from?
Huh?
Where did the draft come from? There had to be some closed door discussions.
Actually, I will just,
Right, start from the beginning, because I'll throw this on too. These have been needed to be done for 12 years now.
Ron, answer that. Sorry for my interruption.
No.
Which is the dog and which is the tail? You have the zoning ordinances and you have the comprehensive plan. Which should come first?
The comprehensive plan should have come first.
So is this premature?
No.
No.
Okay.
And we
These
have,
ordinances, Mr. Greenwood just made, the ordinances have needed overhauling for 12, 15 years. They're unwieldy, as a number of people here complained about, it all depended on whoever was sitting in my seat on how the ordinances got interpreted. So we started down that path, with all the different things that really need to be addressed with the ordinances. So that's what we did first, or what we're doing first.
That being the case, do you think that once the comprehensive plan is passed, that's going to cause amendments to the zoning ordinance then?
That's very possible.
Yes.
Okay.
But again, any things that we need to do, we can do, but correcting the ordinances and getting something solid for the county in place took priority. I've lost track of where I was going with the answer.
Well, you start to there.
You're revamping the comprehensive plan. Would it make sense to get the comp plan out and then mold the zoning changes to that instead of making them now and having to change them later?
no, it's like you said, these are definitions. You have to have the definitions and the ideas before you come up. And we have a comprehensive plan. It's just, it's not perfect. And like maybe Ron had spoken about it, but the comprehensive plan and the ordinances are all living documents. They're supposed to be updated every year maybe, and that's what me and John have been wanting to do. And I've been on the board for 12 years now. We've been pushing for a comprehensive plan and all the ordinances, and we're just getting around to doing it. So
basically, this is the guiding tool.
right, the guiding tool, and then we have a comprehensive plan, but like I said, it needs to be tweaked, but we don't have any good definitions either, so.
And the ordinances, no matter how we do them, aren't going to impact the comprehensive,
Right.
the way we do the comprehensive plan.
And also, as this gentleman here, he's combined, and you just said, again, all ordinances, but you're talking about zoning ordinance. A minor subdivision does not have something to do with zoning to speak of. It has to do with density or the amount of divisions you have per agricultural zone. It's not a zoning issue.
Well, but it falls subdivision zone, I mean, it falls under the zone.
But it's a by right thing. So
Yes.
if there is no zoning issue other than setbacks or whatever. So, I hear this zoning stuff being thrown around, but this paper, I'm not gonna say all of it, but most of it has to do with minor subdivisions.
It's actually the big thing pushes agricultural zone.
Right, okay,
And doing the minors in it, because no majors are allowed there,
okay.
and everything else is, but you're right,
They are allowed, but you have to take another step.
Right,
And so all this is about 4 divisions.
yeah.
For parent track, all this, pretty much, okay.
And that, but it has, as you know, it impacts everyone,
Sure.
Big time.
Is it possible for a longer discussion period than 60 days and pass this thing?
I'm going to take this as part of the comments that one of the reasons we wanted this meeting is to see how we wanted to proceed, and so the planning commission and others can feel that.
Ron, I think
Wait,
it's,
I'm sorry, Ms. Hanlon? I'm sorry, Denner.
I just was gonna say to the group, I'm Catherine Stanley, live in Alet, just to speak to some of the questions that folks had about how this kind of document came to play. I can speak specifically to the solar ordinance. I can tell you that I was asked as someone who was very involved with the last solar project here in this county, and there were about 14 of us, I believe, that gave input. We were various citizens, business owners. I'm also a business owner here in the county. We worked starting in May on giving feedback and tweaks, and we met several times to work together and give feedback and give our input to how we could make that a stronger, better ordinance for this county, knowing that solar is not going away. I'd like to see it go away, but I know it's not going away. So I can speak to that, and that was a very open process. I know I got input from other professionals outside of the state and brought it back to this state that have had direct impact with solar in their rural counties, and from attorneys that I have relationships with. So I can just speak to that one little article in this ordinance and how that process worked. And we were able to present what you all see on the county website. It's a very lengthy document for solar. And that has not been approved, of course, but it has been gone over very thoroughly, and I'm sure it could still use more tweaking. I'm hoping it gets a little bit more tweaking. But that's just insight for this group, just to share your personal experience when
So
someone
that is on
was
the county
asking.
website? A solar thing that y'all are looking at?
It's in the draft ordinance, and I believe we have that draft on there as well.
Right.
And thank you, Ms. Stanley, I appreciate that. Because to drive her point home, this isn't about what's already been, nothing has been decided.
Sure.
We wanted to be input from the community, we wanted to be transparent, I want to hear it, so we can make recommendations to the planning commission, so they can make decisions on the county. Nothing is in stone at this point, and all subject to revision. And as far as scheduling and all of that, again, nothing's cast in stone. I have not advertised the public hearing for the planning commission. And until we set that advertisement out, that's where our deadlines go. So I would encourage everybody to email, call, talk to your friends. And I'll encourage anybody, when you hear from people in the community, please share with us. I keep track of all the comments, concerns that come in, and then I share those with the planning commission. And the planning commission, they hear, and I'm not going to put them on the spot, but I'm sure they're willing to listen to anybody, not just me. So, Ms. Hyde.
I just wanted to bring a point that this whole document, this draft ordinance, wasn't written all by the planning commission. This has been a group effort with a consulting firm that was hired by the county, with the planning department, with their input, as well as the planning commissions. And the planning commission meetings are open to the public. Y'all can come to anything and listen to all of it, and I encourage you to come more often to play that role. We do have a public comment period. If you hear something in a meeting, you can provide that input back to people. But this effort, this document, that's still just a proposal, wasn't entirely written just by the planning commission. It took a lot of input from a lot of different groups of people, and it's just a proposal. That's what we're here for, is to take your input, to try to put something back together along with the public hearings, to try to come up with something that's right for all the citizens.
I want to speak to you, and don't mean anything by this, but as a concerned citizen, to go from 8 years to 15 and 15 is extreme. So what that does to me as I guess an average landowner in Kingwood County with large parcels, are, here we are here, we're going here instead of here. And to go to absolute maximum allowed by law and put it on this piece of paper concerns me. Because this is just one thing. What else is being thought about to go to the absolute extreme? Now, we haven't done anything. But I don't understand the thinking to say, you too, that you worked over it, yes. How we got to 15 and 15, to even put it on the paper, how did that happen? Does that make sense to anybody?
That's a good question. Mr. Longman, that's exactly the reason we're having this meeting tonight. 15 and 15, there are some good reasons
For that?
raising it higher. Okay. Because it was being taken advantage of. You take a parcel, somebody owns it for 8 years, then they give it to the family members for 3 years. One particular place in this county, it was done, they subdivided it into 8 parcels.
Okay.
Those 8 parcels were held 3 years by those family members, and now they're being sold.
Okay, so happened.
But not to the
Okay, well, I want to ask him to clarify something for me, if you don't mind. Okay, I heard your scenario. All right, again, we go back to the parent track rule. Now, I don't have any idea how it works with family divisions, but a parent track rule is a parent track rule. Now, I think a family division, maybe our people that were running the county didn't know what they were doing. But 1986 in September is 1986 in September, and it doesn't say 1986 in September, but family division. This is any division. So one day, if you live long enough, there won't be any minor subdivisions, because there will be no qualifying tracts. You understand that, right? The ordinance doesn't change. It could happen.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
but I want to tell you something about that piece of paper.
sure. I know, throw the trash.
No. You owe me one. No. One of the reasons that those, I said significant on this, I wanted to bring things out to make sure that everyone knew they were in there. Not trying to sneak anything in, there's no other things. When I went through copious notes to see what might be something somebody would be worried about.
Sure.
And I wanted to put them on that, to do exactly what you did. You look at it and what the heck? And that way.
All right, well, I'm gonna ask you a correct question right now. I asked you, read the ordinance and interpret it. I have 100 acres, it's a parent tract. I divide 10 acre tracts off of it, all right? The 10 acres wants to do a family division, okay? Like he was talking about. Can that be done?
Yes. I'm coming to my office.
I know you can, but he's been subdivided again.
But you would only be able to get 2 things out of it.
No.
Okay.
That's, yeah.
This particular place, and it's been done locally.
Okay.
But it was subdivided as a family division.
I understand.
Then it was sold.
Thank you, Steve.
The problem was that with the family division, they didn't require the road being built to any kind of extent.
Okay.
So the roads going into that subdivision are substandard. The access off the main road is substandard.
Okay.
So you got 8 houses, plus another 5. That,
Well, they have a very good ice road going to their house.
But there's a lot of those things.
There are needs to look at issues like that, to try and work through them and come up with what's best. And that's why we're here. We want to listen to you.
Sure. Question.
wait, can I go this?
Ron, but did we punish the whole community, the whole entire county because of one scenario to
No,
get to this
well,
point where we're changing?
Can I back up just a little bit? Again, these are just suggestions. This isn't punitive. These weren't put in to do, these aren't been approved yet. They're going to be revised. So based on what we hear here and out in the community. So it wasn't a matter, nobody went, oh, well, okay. Those are examples of why they changed that rule 12 years ago and make us consider changing the rules. But no, these rules haven't been put in place yet. And that's why we're going through this process so that we can put rules in place that make sense for everybody.
And one other question, when you go to the website to load your document, the 239-page document, it says final draft, June the 12th, 20.
Final draft. The key there is it's a draft.
Okay.
It's as we're speaking, and I mean, this morning, tonight, probably when I get home, and I can speak for the planning commissioners too, I believe. We're going to be working on revising a lot of the issues that came up. All of us, we're constantly looking for revisions for this. The final product that ends up going before the Board of Supervisors for a vote to whether to adopt it is not going to be this final draft. It's going to have changes to it. That's fairly clear that it's going to have changes to it.
Question, it was
Such poor grammar, I can't stand it.
I'm sorry. Well, you're supposed to correct me.
It was said that this wasn't only the planning commission, that there was a firm hired.
Berkeley Group, yes.
The Berkeley Group. Show of hands, how many people in this room were contacted by the Berkeley Group for input? I beg to differ. I'm a landowner in Essex County, and Berkeley Group contacted landowners in Essex County to get their opinion. The Berkeley Group also took the same proposal they did in Essex County, whited out Essex and wrote King William on it and sold it to King William. It's almost verbatim.
Very interesting.
So what the Berkeley Group should have done for what they received, they should have contacted business owners, large landowners, small landowners, farmers, timber guys, everybody, and said, give me your opinion, give me your input, so I can help make a proposal for the planning commission that will ultimately go to the board. I didn't turn all the way around, but were any hands raised in here, anybody?
I can help you there.
Why not? That was
nobody
their
raised
job.
their
That was their
hand.
job.
No, I was telling you.
I was contacted by the Berkeley Group, it was through Essex County.
Well, so was Daryl, I happen to know that. I think Essex, I don't know, I'm not.
They
I'm
went
not
through
confident.
Essex County and contacted hundreds of people and just said, give me your opinion, give me some input. So that they can, because the Berkeley Group is not local. They're not local.
Yeah, I'm familiar.
So they came blindly into a rural county and trying to tell us what we need to do without any input from us. That lacks rationale in my world.
We're getting that in.
But now yes.
Well, how do you put together this draft document, this June draft document, if we're getting to that point? We haven't had an opportunity to give our input until today, and only with 30 people.
Well, hold on for just a second.
If you look at the existing ordinances and you look at this draft ordinance, you can see that they went from the King William draft to current King William ordinances and combined them. It was not the Essex document with King William in a cut and paste. It was the King William ordinances with revisions, and the Planning Commission has gone through all that. As far as the final draft, the Planning Commission had a March draft and they had a May draft, and so the final was the final before we reached out to you folks for input, which is valuable and much appreciated.
But again, that doesn't answer why weren't we contacted?
I can't answer that, I mean, really.
I mean, don't you think that would have been prudent to contact people in the county?
It would have added cost to the whole process if we had them do that, as opposed to having this meeting and others like it if we see the need for it.
Ms. Carter?
My name is Joyce Carter, and I live on 30th. I want to say that Miss Sherry told me to come down here tomorrow, and that you and her and my husband and I guess will discuss this. My grandson, he has paid to have land surveyed. He has paid to have the perk and the separate, everything done that was required. The separate thing. He has did it twice. And that don't make no sense because my thing is when we came here, and this is how much miscommunication there is among you all. I called down to Miss Sher's 4980 that's on this paper. And I was told that we could bring this information down and turn it in. All of these plaques that Mr. Wynn, a surveyor in Tappahannock, did, all the work that Mr. Davis did, who found the soil evaluation. Now, he has to go back and spend more money to try to get not only this 1.5 acre land, but try to get more land added to this to make 3 acres or 5 acres. Why couldn't I have been told that he wouldn't be able to put a home on this property unless he had 5 acres from the start with? Nobody ever said that. They said that as long as this land stood put and he had well and septic, he would be able to put a home on his property.
And the communication there was, I know it looks like we said he couldn't put he could put a house on a lot that already existed. But y'all own the whole thing and you want to subdivide it. You know, you want to cut that piece of property off for it to put the house on. And like you and I talked about before, that's a subdivision thing and the minimum is 5 acres to subdivide the lot. And like we discussed, you know, I know y'all gone through double on the surveyors to get the 5 acre lot. So,
But like I said, what is he gonna do with 5 acres of land? Why should he have to pay for something, and with taxes? Because y'all gonna charge him for 5 acres of taxes. That don't make sense when he don't need it.
and as you heard tonight, Ms. Carter, like a lot of the people here agree with you wholeheartedly, it doesn't make sense. One of the hardest part of my job is I don't get to pick and choose the ordinances that I enforce. And as a couple of developers said, I've cut them out. They say my interpretation or me following the rules, they used to be able to build 7 houses on their little lots. And now what is it, 4? 4. And they say that's because
4 if you meet the requirements of 300 foot.
Right. The ordinance is written that says you can only do 4, you can only do a minimum of 5 acres. Even if I don't agree with it, I don't have a choice, I have to enforce it. And that's why you're stuck having to do 5 acres, which is, I know what, 1.7 acres, I think what your first surveyor said. And that's why it is. I have to enforce, Sherry and I both, we have to enforce our ordinances, they exist right now. And back to one of the things you were asking about, punitive or whatever, the current ordinances we are going to enforce up until the day the Board of Supervisors passes a new. And so there's not a thing where we're suddenly going around enforcing something that doesn't exist yet. And that's what I'm stuck with y'all.
Well, we're gonna get ready to go, but I'm gonna leave this with you all. Anybody who works hard and has family land, and the area that I live in right now, I've been there for 46 years. My thing is, it don't make sense for a person to work hard, have land, and can't even afford to put a home on it or have their children or grandchildren be able to put a home on it after you have given so much to King William County. King William County don't give you nothing, you give them. When you pay your taxes every year, coming here in June and December, when you pay your taxes, you should be able to put what you want on your own land. You shouldn't have to have somebody tell you, oh, well, you can't have a second home on your land. You can't put a barn on your land. You can't put a carport on your land unless you pay this and pay that. That's ridiculous. It is totally ridiculous. And I don't feel like, I'm going to tell you one thing. When God comes through you, He's going to wipe the whole world out. He's not just going to wipe part of it out. And it's gonna be more than just what this Black Lives Matter. Because I had worked for 29 years at King William High School, in the school system, and I have never seen so much prejudice go around from one place to the other. It is ridiculous. And I'm telling you that if the Lord spare me, I will be down here tomorrow. You and Miss Sherry, y'all tell me what needs to be done face to face. Don't go, I'm not expecting a phone call. I'm going to come because I want you to tell me face to face what got to be done.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming, Ms. Starr.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Good luck to everybody.
Thank you.
I didn't announce my name, but I'm Ben Shoemaker, and I wanted to just make a comment. There's been a lot of feedback tonight, and one of the things that when I received this packet, it was really overwhelming to me, and I didn't understand what is it. I actually printed. I printed.
218, 230 pages.
Anyway, what I'd like to be able to do, if it's possible, is that folks here that have comments, I'd like to understand their side of it. And I know Mr. Kelly, you had said some things, this great family over here had said some things, and they all make sense. But I think there's other folks also that probably aren't here tonight that probably have some of their viewpoints. And I think that would be very insightful for me and others to understand their side, their view of their. I don't own lots of land, so I didn't understand some of the, how some of the restrictions impact certain homeowners.
Well, I'm going to be working up a summary of comments. It's going to be in a general form, but that I'm going to be sharing that with the planning commission, so it's automatically public at that point. So there will be some documentation of all the comments. Not only the ones tonight, but the ones I've received prior to tonight. So we keep a running tally on that. But if there's nothing else, I do want to thank everyone here tonight. Again, I can't tell you how much we appreciate the input, and it's very necessary. Yes, sir, sorry.
Oh, yeah, only thing I want to say, I know you're trying to close, that's not an issue. The only thing I was saying is you mentioned a number of media outlets that you were putting this information into, but you're not taking into consideration that older generation is not going to have email. They're not going to look at electronic messaging nor understand how to get it if they're living even by themselves. Snail mail is probably the best way to get this out, and I'm pretty sure that the county has the names and addresses of all the landowners or all the people who were there so that they can get this information out, and at least it can't be said, having maybe one or two mailings, that we did not get that information to you. Because at this point, it's not like the regular law, which says that ignorance of the law is not their fault. Here, it's different because we actually pay taxes for this. And it's something that we need to know because it not only affects us but personally, but going down the line, it affects the family. So all I'm saying, that's probably the one way that you can reach everybody and make sure that everybody is notified. Because I certainly didn't have notification. I got a phone call. And I don't think that's the way that county business should be done.
Thank you.
That's it.
Yes, sir.
The consultant group, are they still active now? Are they still under contract?
Yes, sir.
They are?
Yes.
You know, from what you just said, they spoke with you in Essex County.
A couple of us.
A couple of you. I mean, it would seem to me that it would make sense that if you have, the consultant group specializes in this, right, in ordinance, is that right?
Yes, sir.
So it would seem to me that them going out and looking at the stakeholders in the county, key stakeholders, which could be, big farmers, developers, a cross-section. I mean, a consultant group would have the expertise to be able to identify the proper mix of stakeholders, to be able to gather information and look at the problems that need to be solved and make recommendations. Is it too late for that to happen?
Yes, I would say with the ordinances, now with our comprehensive plan, which is kicking off probably October 1st, that sort of thing will happen with the comprehensive plan. But as far as the ordinance go at this point, the hard work was actually getting the structure and the function of this ordinance together by combining the subdivision into the zoning part. The particulars on minors and families, that's something that we're doing now to get the public input on that. So going much further at this, I mean, doing a full stakeholder meeting, we would get exactly what we've got here so far. And you and I might disagree on that.
I mean,
but, you know.
they've had a huge head start on us. They've been working on this for months. We're starting tonight. Their job was to do what he just said and reach out to the people, because it's not the planning commission's input, it's not the zoning officials' input, it's the community's input. And the community has had no input until tonight, and it's a very small sampling of the community here tonight. That firm was paid to go out and sample the community, do cross-sections, and they did not do that. They did it in Essex County, but they did not do it here. And I would ask them, if they've already been paid, why did they not do that? Why was Essex County deserving of that, but King William County was not?
Are they bound by any law?
No.
Okay. They don't have to do it.
No, and that's a contractual. But I do want to thank everybody tonight. And again, I probably said this 12 times already. Call, email, write, whatever works, and I will do commit to making a much better effort for future advertisements. I'll try to do much better than that.
You may know, is there any committee talking about schools and things that we're gonna need in the future?
That's going to be part of the comprehensive plan
Okay.
that we are beginning to start with.
So this meeting isn't even on the county website, but
I looked this morning.
I looked this afternoon, right, but
Did you see it then?
well, it shouldn't be the place that people are getting their county information.
Yeah, and it is a
Facebook, it shouldn't be.
big problem that more people go on Facebook than they do on the county website.
Yeah, that's the one.
But again, please call, please email, and please tell your friends, ask around, see what worries people, and let us know. I mean, we can't come up with a good ordinance for the county without the county's input. And that's what we're shooting for. Yes,
How are we
ma'am.
going to be contacted about the next meeting?
Huh?
How are we going to be contacted about the next meeting?
I'm going to work, I mean, that's, like I just said, that's one of the things I'm going to try to improve upon, because I've got to find a way.
The next planning commission meeting is a week from tonight, right here.
That is true, I can make that announcement. Planning commission, what's the date?
It's a week from tonight, whatever.
Today, that's the second.
September 2nd? September 1st?
September 1st, 7 o'clock.
There will be a planning commission September 1st. Thank you all again very much.
That's all internal. I didn't know they were all legal. Lisa Roberts.
My home number is 769-4558. Cell number is 201-0511. Okay.
And quick thing about have a concern or just talk?
Yeah, just give me a call.
All right, thanks. And
I emailed you too.
okay, I'll check back because I do have that. It's just those calls. Tell them. Thanks. Okay. No, they're hired by the county. So I thought they were legal firm that just did all this stuff out in the office. I didn't even know. They went to people in the county. They were just our legal firm. We were trying to make it all because definitions were so bad. I just needed to get everything up to standard, like you said, the basic definitions and
What was all
stuff.
that clicking I heard?
It's like 500 pages, and nobody knew where anything was. There was no glossary, there was no.
Stop.
Well, I can see.
Hi.